With Cyberpunk 2077 now in the hands of millions across the globe, I think it's interesting how video games look like this when yesterday they looked like this. Right? We went from ones and zeros to AI-guided algorithmic animation. We do see an increase in fidelity, but I think what we'll see is a larger increase in the scope of games, the size, the mass of these worlds that we enter. Experiences like Red Dead and now Cyberpunk almost feel like simulations that we're peering into, and I think that will only grow, mainly guided by increasingly complex worlds that have a mix of human design and artificial intelligence to fill in the gaps. In the case of Cyberpunk, it's the first game to use this facial animation software called Jelly.
Your cortisol and adrenaline spiked, but the soft activated your hormone blockers. Nothing happened. You're alive and well.
Essentially, it's only reading the vocal performances of the audio files and then generating lip movements and facial animations from it. Whereas before an animator would have to animate each and every word on hundreds of NPCs, this system allows for thousands of NPCs with the polishing being done by humans if need be.
Respire à fond.
Tief durchatmen. Respira com calma.
慢慢深呼吸。
Oddychaj głęboko. Dыши глубже. Respiri lenti e profondo.
Hello, my name is Pete Dryden, and I'm going to show you how to melt cheese in a microwave. You will need cheese, a plate, and a microwave. The first step is to take your cheese out of the fridge. Then, put the cheese on your plate.
At their current states, brain-to-computer interfaces allow us to communicate simple commands to the computer. To do this, modern-day BCIs capture about 256 electrodes. Upcoming companies such as Neuralink claim to capture as much as 3,072 electrodes, meaning that not only is the signal increasing, but the data that this signal is processing is also increasing. And it's possible that this data will be unlike anything we've seen before, whereas previously, information was limited to our browsing habits, search history, conversations. Now, the data may be literal passwords that we think of when we type them out, our reaction time to certain images or videos, the patterns of thought that we send to our devices to search up important information such as this information could then, in theory, be intercepted and turned into not a keylogger, but a logger. But that's just information being intercepted from brain to computer, right? What about computer to brain? Well, just recently, a paper was published out of Stanford. It describes something called deep brain optogenetic stimulation. It has to do with altering the behavior of mice by sending near-infrared light into their brains. A process of behavior modification has been observed previously in mice that are implanted with physical wires. These wires then send electrical signals to the minds. But this new method doesn't require implants. Instead, the mice's hippocampus are injected with something called MINDS. It's actually called MINDS, macromolecular infrared nanotransducers. When the near-infrared light is placed about 40 centimeters above the scalp, the solution called MINDS absorbs that light and creates a sort of neural activation within the brain. The mice that had this injected and with the light shined on them were observed to have an increase in their rotation speed, like their actual movement speed, and they also preferred the area that had the light shining on them. So if we zoom out, and in the future, if this technology is implemented into humans, hopefully where we don't have to inject our minds with minds, but we don't have to use too much imagination to see how this could be hijacked, right? Which brings us back to Snow Crash. The Snow Crash virus hijacks users by playing out a sequence in the VR goggles. This sequence brainwashes the user into being controlled. While I don't believe this to be possible just visually and auditorily as the book suggests, it's possible that technology such as deep brain could be used to do something similar, right? Or say attempt to influence us to buy something if it makes us feel something when we see an advertisement. Or perhaps the hacker man could overheat it and fry our brain while then running off with our bank accounts. It's a dark look at technology, right? And what I'm describing is kind of science fiction at this point. But I think for every bad player, for every bad situation, there's always the good players, the good situations fighting for the light. Before the invention of the internet, there were people predicting what dangers may arise from it, right? And certain dangers certainly have arisen from it. But to stifle advancement in fear of what may go wrong, I think is counterproductive. I believe the best route is then formulating what may go wrong, formulating ways to combat it, and then moving forward into the unknown consciously. At the end of the day, that's what we all do, each and every minute, each and every day, and each and every second, right? And hey, at the very least, if we do have to dodge brain and virtual reality hacks, at least we'll be able to browse infinite memes simply by thinking.
Butter dog, the dog with the butter, butter dog. I got the butter dog, the dog with the butter, butter dog. I got the butter dog, I got the butter dog, butter dog.
It's predicted we may enter the singularity, the point at which technological growth becomes irreversible, resulting in unforeseen consequences within the next few decades. But have no fear.
If you can't beat it, join it. That's
We're seeing a huge increase in the mention of neural networks. They're doing cool things like this hand that learned to walk on its own. But what's less clear is how they operate, even why they operate. Brilliant has this really cool course that dives deep into the internal machinery of artificial neural nets through hands-on experiments. By taking this course, you can develop intuition about the kinds of problems neural nets are suited to solve. And by the end, you'll not only be able to dive into algorithms, you'll be able to build one for yourself. You can arm yourself with the power of knowledge via brilliant.org/disrupt for free. Or if you want to unlock all 60 plus courses, the first 200 people that sign up with a link will get a free 7-day trial of Premium, plus 20% off the annual subscription. Equip yourself for the future at brilliant.org/disrupt.